Hey, what's up, Exit the Matrix family? Bob here. Hey guys, I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for joining me on this morning talk. Today, guys, I wanted to go a little lighter subject. Well, it's a heavy subject, but just not as divisive and and negative as I guess a lot of the stuff that's going on right now, and some of the things I've had to cover in recent videos. I actually wanted to go back and do another installment of the video game theory. So I think this would be part 5. The last one I did, part 4, was what was it? Resets and updates. And I didn't get a lot of traction on that video. I was kind of surprised because it went over some interesting things, about Earth resets, civilization resets, stuff like that. Essentially like restarting the game, with new scenarios and everything. And a lot of times when games get updates, they add like new maps or new scenarios, new characters, and new creatures in the game and stuff, new environments. So that's kind of what that video was about. If you haven't watched that one, maybe go back and check that out. So this one, I don't know quite yet, maybe what we'll call it. Maybe a simulation within a simulation. So where I got off wanting to talk about this was last night. My son, he's been bothering me, trying to get me to watch Black Mirror. And so far I've only watched one episode with him. It was a pretty good, fascinating episode. It was, I think, the second one, it was either the first or second one ever. Well, last night we watched the third episode together. And it was like a movie about, like, essentially in like a future time where people can get like these chips installed in them, kind of like, I guess, Neuralink, right? What Tesla wants to do. And this Neuralink, it allows you to like access all your memories, and it allows you to like record them, download them. You like anytime you can like go and replay things that you've seen and heard, like almost like a movie. It's like essentially it's like it creates a database in your brain that you can instantly access with technology and replay or upload, download, whatever, whenever you want, real time even. And it was a fascinating episode, and it was kind of messed up. If you haven't seen it, it's worth watching. That Black Mirror, so far, the 2 episodes I've watched, they delve into like what ifs about subjects that we talk about a lot of times. But essentially the guy started having an inkling that his wife had been cheating on him, and I don't want to ruin the whole show, but let's just say he uses this Neuralink and he starts collecting data, from other people and conversations and like, figuring out things, and then he eventually figures out, the guy that he's, thinks did it. He forces this guy to like replay video of his wife, and it's a messed up episode. I'll leave it at that, but go watch it yourself. It's on Netflix. Anyways, it's interesting. Black Mirror. And I'm sure a lot of you guys, there's so many episodes of it now. I'm like probably way behind. I don't watch much TV, folks. I really don't. I occasionally watch Gold Rush and, Gold Rush, Whitewater, and Bering Sea Gold. I love those shows. And typically I only watch those shows when I'm, eating dinner or whatever. I typically don't watch TV. So, that's pretty much it. And occasionally I like to watch cooking shows, like, because, you learn some techniques and stuff. And so anyways, but I don't watch movies that often. I don't watch sitcoms at all. Trust me, trying to get me to watch a sitcom, there ain't no way you're going to do it. I don't do it. It's a waste of my time, I feel. for those of you that enjoy sitcoms, great. You know, look, we all need an escape sometimes, right? But anyways, so and really what we're talking about today isn't particularly about the same exact subject, about like Neuralink or something, but I had an epiphany when I was watching the show, and me and my son were talking about it. And I gotta admit, man, my son, he's pretty open to a lot of the things that we talk about because, you know, he grew up with me, and I've always taught my boys to be free thinkers. I never forced a religion down their throat. I never forced my ideas or thoughts down their throat, but I just tried to get them to think. Just think, you know? There's, you know, and I've tried to get them to like look into like quantum physics and stuff like that, you know, like basically the places that their schools are trying to move them away from. I've told them to look in those corners and such. So, but I had an epiphany watching the show, and it was that I realized, you know, after all these hundreds of NDE accounts that I've listened to, and I watched a pretty intense one yesterday, or not, didn't watch it, but I listened to it while I was working. Kind of like, I kind of use them like a podcast, essentially, you know. But a lot of people talk about the life review, and it, you know, when they were replaying the memories on the Black Mirror episode, that's when I started thinking. I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy, because these life reviews that people explain, that 90% of people that, you know, at least have an extended NDE, they, you know, and they always talk about this life review, and it's weird because it's always like personally tailored, you know. It's like it's never the same for everybody, at least the scenario or the background, but the life review itself is essentially the same thing. But it's weird because in a lot of these life reviews, it's like technology. It's like there'll be people, they say sometimes they're in a white room, and there's like a holodeck, you know, like on Star Trek, you know, where you can bring up holographic images, and then they'll like, you know, they'll be like where they can, all of a sudden they'll have all these like little movies, and they tap on it, and then all of a sudden it's like they go into the scene and they start replaying, you know, that memory, but not just from their own perspective, from the other person's perspective. And sometimes they say it'll be like a wall with TVs, kind of like, you know, remember on the last part of the third Matrix, where he finally meets the architect, and he's in that room, and it shows Neo, all those different versions of Neo that have showed up and talked to the architect, right? You know, and it's like all those screens of him. They say sometimes it's like that. They say sometimes it's like a tablet, like they'll hand you a tablet, like a crystal clear tablet, and it's like all of a sudden you'll have these like life reviews play on it, but then you like kind of merge with it, and you like I said, it's like you feel the other person's feelings, you hear their thoughts, you feel how they feel, you feel what they felt, you know, physically. It's intense, they say, you know, when you have these like life reviews. You know, if you hurt somebody, you get to feel it from their perspective, and then you see how the ripple effect it causes in their life. And it's crazy when you think about it. Like this life review, like it's like a digital recording, that it's like a playback, but it's an intense one because it's also incorporates feelings and wow, guys, holy smokes. Sorry to interrupt, but that was a pattern disrupt. What in the heck? Okay, it's 5:30 a.m. in the morning. It's still dark outside. I'm getting ready to go up this mountain pass, and there's some dude with a black shirt on, this creepy bald-headed dude, just standing by the side of the road, not hitchhiking or anything, just standing there with his arms out his side, like just staring at cars driving by, just with this weird stance. Just weird looking, like I don't know what that was, folks. That was weird. What the heck? Anyways, wow, I really need to get a camera on the front of my car some, because I have a lot of weird stuff happen when I drive to work in the mornings, but you guys have probably witnessed some of that, you know, sometimes, but that was weird. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt myself there, but wow, that was weird. Okay, anyways. Okay, hope that guy's all right. But okay, so the life review, it's like a replay, right? So I started thinking a lot. Me and my son were talking about that, because my son, I keep trying to tell him to like look into NDEs, do some research on them. He don't. You know how it is with teenagers. You tell them to do something, they don't want to do it. Now, if he figures out in his own way that he wants to look into it, he will. But he isn't going to do it because his dad, told him that maybe it'd be a good idea for him to do it. Because they all know better than we do, right? Teenagers, we're idiots. We don't know anything. They know everything, right? It's no different with my boys. Though my oldest, he's on his own now. He's kind of figured out that mom and dad weren't so stupid after all. But, the youngest, he's still got a little bit to learn. But anyways, we started talking about, the fact that this is a simulation, obviously. Some type of a construct, right? That we find ourselves in right now. And we started talking about that perhaps the reason why the life review has like technologies, and it's like this digital recording, and it's like replays, and it's like you get to see like, what you did here on Earth, what you experienced, who you interacted with, how you interacted with them, your major life moments, when, the old thing when people say your life flashes before your eyes, and you see your kids being born, you see all these, like, you're being married and all these kids graduating, all these different points of, in your life, like major events, right? Well, if you think about a video game, because we are talking about video game theory here, which is basically simulation theory. In video games, a lot of times they have these things called like screenshots or clips that are saved, right? Like on Skyrim, for instance. I like to talk about Skyrim, folks, because I love the game, and it's a good game. It's like a virtual reality world, so it's easy to kind of use as a reference point, right? But you can record like videos, or like when you hit a certain achievement in the game or a certain trophy, the game will record a clip of you doing that, or a screenshot. And then you can go back in and you can watch that replay, or that look at that screenshot of the timestamp and everything of when you did that, right? Accomplish that. So it's kind of similar with this life review. So we were talking about perhaps we are in layers of simulation. And that's why when people cross over, it's like another reality, but there's like technologies in that reality. It's like it's like pure consciousness, right? It's like when you're outside of the body, you're still you're still a consciousness, but without the body. So it's a proven fact that your consciousness, what is truly is you, lives on beyond, the actual physical body. And why is that? Well, think about this. We could be in like layers of simulations, and when you leave this simulation, this third dimensional simulation, and you go to, and you're out of your body, your consciousness, you're free floating in another type of simulation, where that simulation, your thoughts can create and manifest instantly, whereas in this world, you have to actually, you can come up with thoughts. Say you come up with an invention, you create the thought form, or you download the thought form, right? Oh, I'm sorry, folks. Dang, all of a sudden my throat got super dry. But some people also say it's almost like you download, right, from like the Akashic records. Like you aren't actually coming up with the invention. You like get a download of it right into your mind, and then you got to like put it down on paper, design it, and then you start working on it physically to manifest it into reality in this dimension, right? You don't just think about it and it just pops up and appears like magic. But in the next, when you're out of the body, that is exactly what happens. It's like everybody says you speak by telepathy. Whatever you think, it pops up in front of you. You can travel with just your thoughts. You can, all these things, right? So what we were talking about was like, what if at some point in the far past, maybe this could be millions or billions of years ago, humanoids or some kind of consciousness life form got so advanced that they did create maybe the first, what you could call like the type of metaverse or matrix, right? Kind of like, you know, the big Z wants to do, right? The metaverse, where people will work in the metaverse, live in the metaverse, you know, be plugged in a lot of their time, play all their games there. That was his wet dream, of course. I mean, a lot of people are starting to kind of like turn away from that because, you know, it's like a dystopic future, right? We all living in a little tiny cubicle, 100 square foot apartment, and everybody just sitting on a couch tapped into the metaverse and living this la la land, magical land in the metaverse, you know, and you're, you know, where you could do anything in the metaverse, right? It's like you're like a digital avatar, and it's a digital world, but it seems real, right? That's what they want to create, to upload your consciousness to the metaverse. What if some type of creation had happened in the far past and people left physical bodies, their consciousness, and entered a realm, a simulated realm? And then maybe from that realm, they perfected it, you know, to the point that it was more real than real. And then they start creating layers of simulations so that you could go experience different realms, different worlds, creations. If you guys have ever watched Darius Wright or listened to him, if not, I would, you know, encourage you to do it. He's this guy that's been, and you can find him easy on YouTube, Darius J. Wright. He's been making rounds on a lot of interviews around NDE and OBE, like podcasts and stuff. He's been having controlled out of body since he was like 15. And he's been mapping the other side, you know, outside of the body. And he has a whole process that can teach you how to do your own controlled OBE. Well, and he doesn't do it with like, you know, with ayahuasca or anything like that, folks. He does it like just with techniques, with like kind of slowing your breathing down and putting yourself into sleep paralysis, essentially. So it's interesting. But anyways, he talks, you know, a lot about how on the other side that he says worlds aren't what you think. He said there's like these libraries or these buildings that have like, he calls them like what do you call, like God's laboratory or something like that. And he said there's like these shelves and there's like all these like globes or these worlds on these shelves. And he said they represent worlds that you can incarnate onto or into. You know, your consciousness can enter into those worlds and you're born into an avatar so you can experience that world. And he said they're all different, and Earth is one of these types of like constructs. And he says there's just like shelves with all these worlds stacked on it like a library, almost like some weird library, you know. And it sounds odd, but he's always talking about this, but it made me think about that. What if we are at a point in consciousness and in technology, in a far future sense already, that layers upon layers of simulations have been created, and that, you know, you can put your consciousness into any of these worlds and incarnate and live a lifetime there. And then you leave the body, you know, when it passes, and you go back and you can go choose to go into another one. I know it sounds weird, folks, but I mean, the more and more you start to think about this, I mean, with, you know, the life review and everything, and the fact that this world is a simulation, where, especially with quantum physics and everything, starting to open our eyes to this understanding. And you look at how advanced our own virtual reality games are getting in this world. And they're trying to create a matrix within the matrix, or a simulation within the simulation that's like lifelike, believable, right? And it's been proven, and if you've ever tried a virtual reality game, folks, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's been proven you can trick the brain, at least temporarily, into believing that the simulation is real. I mean, we've got a VR headset for the PlayStation 4, and we have like this Resident Evil game, and it's kind of a creepy game. You're like in this mansion, and you're like, there's this dude chasing you with an axe, at some point, and you got to go hide, and you're like ducking down, hiding behind furniture and stuff, and you can peek over the chair and see him looking around the room for you. I mean, my God, when you're in that game and you're playing the game and you let your mind kind of merge with the game, it feels like temporarily you're literally in that room and this crazy dude's chasing you, and you're feeling an adrenaline rush. You're like looking around, you're actually scared, you're like, you feel for a little while, you trick your mind into believing it's real. Now imagine in the next 50 years, or hell, not even that, next 10 years, what they're going to be doing with video games, with how real they are, and especially these virtual reality games. They already have the technology now, they're saying, that adds touch and smell, to the experience of virtual reality. I mean, think about when we get to the point where we perfect virtual reality that interfaces with all of your senses to the point where it tricks all your senses into believing it's real. Now, if you think about this world, then this already could have been a masterminded simulation. Because if you really think about it, folks, when you incarnate into the human form, the pineal gland is the seat of the soul. It's the connection point between the higher dimensions and this dimension. It's where your mind, your consciousness interfaces with the brain, with the human avatar, the body. But in a sense, you're just getting data, electrical signals from your senses that create the illusion of what you consider reality here. So what you consider the real world, the real physical world, is really nothing but illusion. The whole thing is illusion. And that's why I say this is a simulation. What the total nature of the simulation is, I think we're still grasping at, trying to figure out. But it is quite obvious that this realm is a type of simulation. It's not hard to see that either, folks. I mean, look, just think about what I'm talking about here, and just let your mind wander enough that you can think outside of I'm a real human, this is a real world, physical world. Start really thinking about what I'm talking about here. It's electrical signals to your brain, to the operating system. And that's what creates the illusion for the consciousness to experience. Isn't it interesting, folks, that when people have an NDE, how they pop out of their body and they can see their body and watch like the paramedics working on the body and stuff? And then they say when you're out of the body, it's like you have no love for the body. It's like you're disinterested, like it doesn't even matter. In fact, a lot of people are happy because now they don't feel pain anymore or anything, right? And they feel like a love, like this higher emotion, like this, they say when you're out of the body, you feel like that love of God, of creator, of source. And, but your body, you just see it as like a vessel at that point. It was a vehicle. You no longer identify as the body. You realize the consciousness is separate from the body. So that makes it that the body was never you. It was just a temporary vehicle that your consciousness used to immerse itself into this creation, into this simulation. Isn't it interesting also, folks, on the other side, people talk about how you can take on any form you want. You can be a ball of light. You can take on a human form. You can take on the form of anything, like a spirit, an angel with wings, whatever, right? It's like in that realm, you can instantly take on any avatar form you want. And it has a physical quality to it. Those that say when you're in the spirit realm, folks, that it's like you're like an apparition like people see here on earth, that there's no form, it's just like a wispy will-o-wisp, right? Just air mostly. Well, that's not really true. People say when you're on the other side that it's more real than real, that your senses are actually amplified, and it's more you can have touch and sense all the same senses you have here, but they're like super, like powerful, you know. Even that Darius J. Wright talks about that when he has his OBEs and you're out of the body, he says that your spirit form is more real than the body. I know it's hard to explain, but this is what people say. They say you can't really put it into words because in our human world, you can't really explain it the same. It just isn't. It's so different from this realm, you know. But then when you look at it, it's like weird that there's technologies in that realm and you can still take on like a human avatar form. And so I don't know, man. What do you guys think? You think that this is some type of a simulation within the simulation? I don't know. Have we already in the far past entered the metaverse, and now within the metaverse we are just in layers of simulations, and our consciousness lives on forever? You know, that's what the elite talk about, right? They, you know, guys like Z and Bezos and, you know, all these weird futurists, you know, technocrats, they always talk about the fact that the reason why they want to create these metaverses and stuff is so that they can upload their consciousness so that they never die, that their consciousness lives on. But these dummies don't realize that already happens, you dummies. When you pass away, you leave this world, same damn thing happens. You're still alive, but it's your consciousness that lives on, not your physical body. And that's what they talk about with these NDEs, that's what they want to accomplish. But that's already essentially what we're experiencing when you have an OBE or an NDE. You're already experiencing that. So have we already created it in a distant past? Maybe Atlantis created the metaverse. And we are in just layers of the like a type of metaverse, a simulation that they all had already created in a far, that, you know, maybe they were more technologically advanced than we are even now. And that once consciousness figured out how to survive forever, it had to create games and worlds to go experience. Because what else are you going to do, right? Float around in the nether, in the void forever? And isn't it weird too, folks, how there is this void in between, like, worlds, simulations? Like, when you leave the body, you go into the void, and they say it's like a 3-day cleansing process. Like, you cleanse all the negative and stuff you experience here on Earth. And you get prepared, you go through the life review, you meet loved ones. Sometimes you meet elders or Yeshua or Buddha or a council of beings, of angels, or, you know, archangels, or crossed over loved ones. I mean, I don't know. Look, I know I just repeated a few things there, but the point is that you go through a process before you get reintegrated in with the higher world, with the next dimension, right? And then you get initiated back in. You get the choice to come back here or to go back to your home. Now, is that just another simulation you're going to? Maybe a more advanced, higher dimensional simulation? I don't know, folks. It's just, I find this all fascinating. And maybe for our human brains, it's hard to compute these things. Because another interesting thing, folks, that people say when they have an NDE is that you get this instant download of the Akashic records, right? They say that you actually go into, or that you actually, like, all of a sudden have instant downloads of, like, advanced mathematics and geometry, you know, science, everything. And they say it's just like instantly, and when you're out of the body, it's like it's intense because it, like, comes at you and it's super fast, and it's like you can just absorb all the knowledge of the universe instantly. But they say the problem is a lot of the people, like, they learn all, they say it's like when you're there, you know it all, but when you come back here into the body, they say that you can't bring all that with you, because the human brain, the computer, right, the operating system, is not powerful enough to retain all that knowledge and understanding, which means when we're out of the body, we're way more intelligent. We have access to all of the knowledge of the universe that we don't have here on Earth. But of course, the internet is like a generic version of that Akashic records, right? That universal knowledge. So what we're doing here is just creating a layer of what is already in the higher dimension. Like I said, layers upon layers of simulations. I don't know, folks. I mean, is this world a programmed world? And this is just a world we came to experience, And maybe this world's a really tough world, right? Because it's got duality and everything else. Maybe there's worlds you go to and it's just like paradise the whole damn time, right? I don't know, folks. I'm speculating, letting my mind kind of think outside the box. It's really interesting stuff. So, definitely, when I get home today, I'm going to upload this video. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, but I don't know. I mean, as what we've been talking here, it makes me think even more. And there's a lot more I'd like to talk about this, but I'm at work, so I got to roll here. But anyways, guys, hey, if you're interested in the one-on-one Zooms, message me. I enjoy doing those, and I enjoy networking with you guys personally, one-on-one. And the Zooms that we've been doing have been fantastic. And like I've mentioned before, your donation for my time, if you book at least an hour with me, and look, folks, I've never had anybody book under an hour. Typically, most of them are 2-3 hours, but an hour is still good time, especially to meet a new person. A lot of my regulars that book these, it's like 2-3 hours every time, and I can't, folks, being able to geek out with somebody like for 3 hours that's like thinks outside the box like I do, and we can talk about any crazy subjects you can imagine, is for me like so fascinating, and I love it. I mean, it's better than watching, the best movie. It's better than sitting down playing video games for hours or whatever. I mean, I enjoy it as much as I do on my hiking trips when I go garnet hunting and stuff, because it's like you're interfacing with another person directly that is as open-minded as you are, and that can talk about a vast array of subjects that you can't talk about with most people. And that's really what I'm offering, folks. Really, it's just that chance to get your thoughts out and be able to talk to somebody that can literally talk about anything you want to talk about. So anyways, guys, I offer those one-on-one Zooms. You also get to keep a copy of that Zoom, and you can do whatever you like with that Zoom, okay? You can post it on your own social media, on your own YouTube channel, whatever. I don't put any restrictions on that. It's your property. You get a copy of it. Now, I don't post the one-on-one Zooms, okay? Because those are private, and I leave it up to the person that actually, met with me for that, that donated for that, for them to do what they'd like. And then as a further parting gift, and I'm almost ready to start sending them out, I collect rare purple rhodolite garnets that you mostly only find here in western North Carolina. Outside of that, they're usually just sourced in a couple mines around the world, but they're like in very distinct places. They're typically garnets are more of a red, darker red to a light red. These are a light pink all the way to a dark purple wine color, like Merlot color. So they're a different shade of garnet that's pretty rare. I collect them. These are all my own personally collected ones. And I've been going through a process of getting them cleaned up chemically and stuff. So I try to get them down to gem as much as I can, though it's hard to get, because, they're all different sizes. They got different rock matrices on them. I never can get them perfect, but I'm trying to get them at least more to where I can send you guys more gemmy ones, right? Instead of just what look like little purple rocks, like trying to actually get you, so the gems come through. But anyways, as a parting gift, I'm going to be sending those out to people that book Zooms with me too, as an extra thank you. And as an extra way to connect, your gift and my gift, right? Your energy and my energy. It's an intermingling and a connection. So And we need more of that in this world, folks. We need to. Those of us that are kind of on the fringe from society because we don't think within the constructed conformities of of society. We can think outside the box. We're not locked into religion and political views and this and that, and you know philosophical views, right? We can think, even beyond our own comfort levels. So um, it's we got to connect with each other, folks, and look, there will be some day when perhaps this channel gets so big that I won't have time to do these, but while I can, I'm going to do them. So anyways, guys, hey, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later.